ඊළඟ එක තමයි ඊළඟ එක Strategic Development Projects Act. මේ අනිත් එක්ස්පෝර්ට් කන්ට්‍රෝල් එකට ආපු නිලධාරී මහත්මීන්ට මෙතනින් නික්ම යන්න හැකියාව තියෙනවා. බොහොමත්ම ස්තුතියි. SDP එක රීකන්සිඩරේෂන් එකක් මේක තියෙන්නේ අර එරාවුර් එරාවුර් මේ ටෙක්ස්ටයිල් zone එක සම්බන්ධයෙන් අපි විටින් විට ස්ටේක් හෝල්ඩර්ස්ලටත් එන්න කියනවා මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් අපිව දැනුවත් කරන්න. ගිය පාර මේ කමිටුවේදී සාකච්ඡා වුණා විවිධ අදහස් ඉදිරිපත් වුණා. ඒ නිසා අපි Joint Apparel Associations Forum එකේ ප්‍රධානියා මිස්ටර් යොහාන් ලෝරන්ස්ට එන්න කිව්වා. එතුමාට අපි විනාඩි 10ක් දෙමු බ්‍රීෆ් එකක් දෙන්න. මොකද්ද ඔවුන්ගේ බලාපොරොත්තු වුණේ මේක පටන් ගන්නකොට සහ what the current status is and what you are expecting. Thank you. Mr. Lawrence.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for asking us. So I'll just want to run through a few facts on the industry and why the Eravur zone is important. So JAF's strategy has always been to grow our backward linkages to the industry so that the export industry connects with local manufacturers and also becomes part of the complete value chain. We believe this aligns with the strategy of the government as well. Secondly, geopolitical shifts have resulted in customers wanting to source more raw material out of Sri Lanka. We saw this from the start of COVID and it continued throughout. Thirdly, legislation in the US, the EU and the UK, which are our major markets, are all focused on demonstrating traceability and transparency of the supply chain. I had sent it by WhatsApp and on email. I have some printout copies if you need.
Yeah, but you can put it on. We have a screen. Hey, what? Mr. Lawrence, if you wish to...
Sure. Thank you very much. So, as I said, the reason that we need a zone for textiles is that JAF's strategy has always been to grow our backward linkages of the industry so that we have an export industry that connects with the local manufacturers and then becomes part of the value chain. We believe this aligns also with the strategy of the government. Geopolitical shifts have resulted in customers wanting to source more raw material from Sri Lanka. This is particularly to move away from China. We saw this post-COVID, and it is something that has continued to build momentum. Thirdly, legislation in the US, the EU, and the UK are all focused on demonstrating traceability and transparency in the supply chain. The ability to demonstrate that we can show not only where the garment was made, but where the fabric was made, will give Sri Lanka a major advantage over a number of our competitors, and will also ensure to our markets that the source of our raw material is clearly known. Thirdly, that to make a step change in the exports of apparel, we have to offer something different to the customer. The government has given us some very ambitious goals for exports, and unless we change the model we are running, we're going to get the same result. Just a bit of context where we are. So if you look at apparel exports since 2019, and we take 2019 as being pre-COVID, the last kind of good year, and if you look, the 2024 numbers are just out today, we're still around 10% short. So the ground that we have lost since COVID, unfortunately, we have not regained the year. 2022 number was a bit of a skewed number because there was a large surge in our markets of overconfidence, and we saw that crash in 2023. So we're really still struggling to make a step change from that 5 billion level that we're at. Specifically on 2 points, so the EU and the UK account for around 45% of our exports. Our exports to these two markets is the only markets we have some preferential trading agreements in terms of the GSP Plus scheme and the UK's DCTS scheme. But unfortunately, the utilization of these schemes is only around 50%. So only around 50% of the apparel that we ship to the US, to the UK and the EU qualifies because of the rules of origin. So under those schemes, the only countries that Sri Lanka can accumulate with are the SAARC countries, from which it's really only India, and we're in the process of applying for fabric out of Indonesia as well. The biggest challenge that we face is that when, and I use the word when, not if, India signs its FTA with the EU and the UK, India comes out of the GSP Plus scheme as an FTA beneficiary, and Sri Lanka will no longer be able to accumulate with India. So the 50% that we are currently shipping to these markets, the amount of that uses Indian fabric, which is a significant part, will just simply get taken out. The Aravour zone and its ability to attract investors into the zone is currently the only strategy that we have to counter this potential loss of orders. There's nothing else in the toolbox to counter it. I also wanted to take a moment just to clarify some issues, because this backward integration piece is something that JAF has been working on consistently for the last 7-8 years. And if I take the 2023, the 2024 data isn't fully complete, so my apologies, but if I take the 2023 data, and this is relating to BOI companies because it's easier to grab that data, and BOI companies are 99% of it. So we exported around $4.3 billion. The 4.5 comes once you count textiles and a few other things, but the data set is 4.3. Out of that, we imported raw materials to the value of 1.6 billion. So it's 37% was imported. There's a further $538,000, which was raw materials purchased locally. So that is from BOI enterprises, the likes of Ocean Lanka, TJ, Noyon, Stretchline, Fantasia, all of the backward integration supply that we have brought. And then the balance 50% is made up of locally sourced raw materials in rupee terms, so bags, buttons, bows, the sort of smaller items, plus obviously the running costs of the factories. So what I'm trying to demonstrate is that we have had a strategy in place which has moved us away from an import of raw material. So the value addition in Sri Lanka is well over 55%. And this is something which I know gets misquoted, but our position on this and the data is from the BOI, which supports that this is. And we see Aravour as being something which will help to build on this. The other question is, are incentives necessary? And, why do we need incentives? So a few points. Unlike the manufacturing of apparel, textile industry is very heavily capital intensive and cannot be relocated easily. When trade shifts happen, people can pack up sewing factories into containers and ship it out. Textiles, you can't. It's big machinery. So investors in textile mills will need to have a solid case for building up a fabric mill. Our competitor countries offer a range of incentives to attract their investors. And if Sri Lanka wants foreign investment in textiles, then we have to have an offer on the table that is a competitive offer in terms of what the potential is, so that the mills who are considering investing in this part of the world can weigh up their odds and choose to come to Sri Lanka because that is the best place. If you take a country like Vietnam, one of our biggest competitors, Vietnam has a long-term FTA with the UK and the EU. So this means that if you set up a fabric mill in Vietnam, you're assured of a source through. Sri Lanka relies on GSP Plus and DCTS. If a mill invests in Sri Lanka and if we lose GSP Plus in the next round, currently it's only till 2027, if we either don't apply or we lose it, that investment suddenly becomes unsustainable. And this question of the perception of a tax loss, our position is if we don't have the incentive, there's no investment. If there's no investment, then there's no sales, there's nothing. So it's a theoretical number that looks. And really just to leave you the point that says, what would be the long-term impact on the apparel sector if we did not actively promote the value chain? The industry won't last. Honorable Chaturanga and I had a conversation. If we don't build our value chains behind this, the industry has nothing left. The industry will pack up and go. So we believe the Aravour Park is important. JAF proposed Yarravur Park a long time ago. It's been long in coming. We have one very patient investor who has been trying to move on this. And really, we see this as the only piece that we have to help the sustenance of the industry at the moment. Thanks. Happy for your questions today.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. I think that opened everybody's eyes. BOI, you all are the people who are asking us to extend the start period, isn't it? What exactly are you requesting this committee to do?
Yeah, what we are requesting, Honorable Chair, is to declare JJ Textiles, that's the first operator moving into the Yarravur Park, to be given the strategic status as per the guidelines already published. So under the strategic act, there was a blanket status given to Yarravur. So in that zone, anyone who comes in with a 10 million USD would get 5 years, and it goes on up to anyone over 30 years gets 10 years. This particular company, JJ Textiles, has invested 35 million, and as per the criteria that is laid down in the Gazette, they will be eligible for that concession. So what we are seeking today is to publish their name as being a company eligible to enjoy those concessions. 10 for full tax and 5 years concessionary. That is as per the schedule in the SDP blanket cover.
What is the effective date shifting?
There's no effect.
Commencement of project implementation shall be 25 July 24. Tax holiday period of the enterprise shall be reckoned after 12 months, which is
From the commercial.
from
From-
25 July 2024.
Yes, because we signed agreement with the company in 2022, but they could not enjoy any benefits because the clarification gazette came 2 years thereafter. So we have requested that their concessions be started from the supplementary date, which is July 2024.
You know, the issue here, honorable members, I have no objection to this or any other investment that comes in here. I want DST to take a look at the issue in terms of tax concessions, right? I mean, the tax to GDP ratio has been falling because what you have been telling us is because of these large tax concessions. One major reason, without specifics. For instance, the SDP Act itself has been criticized heavily because it gave the minister then to pick and choose how many years of tax concessions they were going to be provided, as opposed to, for instance, in the Port City Act, which is specifically mandated. Here, it doesn't matter. You can bring $5 million and get 25 years, or can be $100 million and get 5 years, right? So in that context, what is the view of the Ministry of Finance
It is very
on this matter? Because assuming that JJ Mills is the first one to set up, Mr. Lawrence, you are expecting multiple others also to set up there, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, sir. So the zone is 200 and something acres. JJ Mills has 50 acres. So we would be expecting to get probably four mills in total in the space that we have.
Yeah, can I ask you one question on that? Yes, because I met few investors who are willing to do fabric here, and they said this particular location has no water.
So if you look through the history of it, there is an agreement both with the water board and with the
For
CB.
15,000 cubic.
Yes.
Yes,
Square
to,
cube.
so to
So
yes.
is it
So,
available now?
Currently,
it's
7,000 meter cubes are available, so that is enough for the construction phase. So water board will be providing up to 15,000 cubic meters by the time the other companies come on stream. So
Do you
for
have a-
JJ itself, it is
Does the
sufficient.
BOI have another lineup of investors, or have anybody committed?
so we had four investors. Yeah, we had three investors lined up. When the process was taking so long, the others fell by the wayside. So our plan is, once we have the first investor fully set up and approved, to then do a active marketing program together with the BOI to target certain large fabric mills to come in and set up and say this is here. And then that augmentation of both water and electricity will be done hand in hand. Otherwise, it requires to have massive investment ahead. So what we agreed is that we would do this on a staged basis.
So that investment is planned through BOI, the
It
future?
it will be funded through the treasury because water board supplies the water and the power is from the CEB. But the requirements have been given and we have made, there are budgetary allocations done
For
as
this
well.
year?
Yes.
Where are you getting the water from?
Sugat?
Because 15,000 cubic meters of water per day.
From Walachene
There
and
is-
Minipe.
තියනවද ඔය තියෙන විදිහ?
So not at the moment. At the moment, I think there is
The
enough.
The
augmentation will
15,000
happen.
cubic meters per what time frame?
Yeah, so we have 7,000 at
No,
the
per
moment.
what?
Per day.
Per day,
Per
per
day.
Per
day,
day,
per day.
yeah. Lot of water, no?
Generally are some zone near to a strong river. So like in Thul area, they have a river running. So there's a, and mostly preferred is like Kalani River. But given the environmental issues and all that, that is sensitive area. So this is where they have agreed. So now the commitment should be from the water board that they will provide this 15,000
Yes.
Cubic meters.
Cubic
cubic
meters.
meters of water, because that is the critical success. I think electricity is not a big problem, but water is the biggest problem. So I think we need to have that very much verified, approved, agreed that the water board is capable of doing that.
So I hope there is that agreement.
Yes, they have given us that commitment.
But there is a water source.
They have, yes, they have identified those two, Walachene and Minipe as the sources
So they
where
have to bring
would
the
drop.
water quite a distance, or
They would, and it would not only be for Eravur, it will be for the whole area.
so have they started building that?
Not yet, sir. No.
But then when is this supposed to start? In 24 July
There's
2020?
sufficient for this particular company, and for two other, so that will be doing the construction phase. So the 7,000 would suffice for two others going in for construction.
For the construction
Yeah,
period, not
but for
man-
JJ, they would require about 4,500. So when they are operational, the 7,000 would meet their requirement.
So basically we can have about JJ size 4.
We could have about 4 years.
That will occupy the
Entire area, yes.
What percentage of this could be import substitution or to?
So fully, whatever is produced locally, the main reason to produce locally is to feed the local industry. So 100% of,
Could it be of the export now? You are importing maybe 65-70%.
no, we're currently importing about 35%. So when JJ scales up,
So ones or the other one?
it's a combination of both knit and woven. So this would be a knit mill, so they would replace some of the knit
So
production.
what percentage will it import substitute? Because your question that is put here is your sales are being looked at as a cash inflow and showing that that is the benefit to the country.
import reduction.
Yeah.
So what would be that to offset the import?
So
cost?
if you take JJ's mill, but it's on a phase. It's on three stages. I think when it gets to its total capacity, it would probably take about 10% off the of the import.
So 1/3.
Yeah.
Yes,
See-
please.
මේ කොස්ට් එක දැන් මේ ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එකට බලපාන්නේ නැද්ද මං කියන්නේ වෝටර් බෝඩ් එක හරහා ගන්න නම් ඒ තරම් ප්‍රමාණයක් දැන් දැනගන්න හැමිනේ දැන් කොස්ට් එක නේද වැඩි වෙන්නේ
එතකොට ඒක plug and play දෝක?
BOI gives all the utility supplies to the site.
The investor does the construction.
Investor does
මම කියන්නේ
construction.
අහන ප්‍රශ්නේ හරි සරලයි. දැන් අපි ලොකු එෆර්ට් එකක් දාලා වතුර ගෙනාම ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රි රේට් එකකට වතුර දෙන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා නේ?
ඔය ඒක අහන්නේ
වතුර දෙන්න රේට් එකක් තියෙනවානේ. cubic
වෝටර් බෝඩ් එක හරහා ගන්න ඕන
Water
නම්
board
කියන්නේ
එකේ
කොස්ට් එකක්
ගන්නට
තියෙනවනේ
දෙයිද?
per unit
ඒක agree වෙලා
එතකොට ඒක
තියෙනවා.
ගැටලුවක් වෙන්නේ නැති වේද එයාගේ ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එකට ඒක දැන් කොස්ට් එකට ඊට පස්සේ ආයෙ එකතු වෙනවනේ
අපි දෙන්නේ water board. You can tell them.
Same rate, they are applying same rate what they are
ඔය කියන්නේ
giving.
වෝටර් බෝඩ් එක මෙහෙමයි ලංකාවේ.
Now-
කොච්චර ඉන්වෙස්ට්මන්ට් එකක් කරා සේම් රේට් එකට දෙන්න.
ඒ රේට් එකට ගියා වතුර ටයිප් එක හැරියා වතුර එනවා. වතුර තියෙන්න ඕන. මොකද ගොඩක් තැන්වල ගරු ඇමතුමා සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ ඔය එළියේ පුද්ගලිකව දන්න දෙයක් තමයි දැන් මේ වතුර කෙසේ වෙතත් ඉලෙක්ට්‍රිසිටි ගොඩක් volatile fluctuate වෙනවා. ඉතින් බොහෝ දෙනෙක්ට දාන්න වෙනවා ස්ටෑන්ඩ් බයි ජෙනරේටර්ස්. ඒක cost එක double වෙනවා.
මේකට නම් power හොඳටම තියෙන්න එපා. ඉතින් high power consuming industry එකක්.
ඒවා තියනවාද ඔක්කොම?
Now the investor is happy, but we have to think about the next phase.
Oh, well, the investor's sponsor is happy.
Sir, the investor is not happy. The investor said to me, "Can I come today?" I said, "No, I don't think so." But the investor is very exceedingly patient. So this is a project that has been going since, and they are a big Indian company. So
මෙහෙමයි මැතිතුමා මේක අපි පක්ෂ විපක්ෂ හැටියට නෙමෙයි මෙතන බලන්නේ. අපි බලන්නේ මේක කොහොමද කරන්නේ කියලා. ඉතින් කාලයක් තිස්සේ ප්‍රමාද වුණේ අපේ වැරද්දක් නිසා නෙමෙයි. ඕගොල්ලන්ට අවුරුදු දෙකක් ගියා ගැසට් එක ගහගන්න. හවුද නැද්ද?
Verification gazette එකට කාලයක් ගියා.
ඔව් දැන් අවුරුදු දෙකක් යනවාද ගැසට් එකක් ගහන්න. ඊට පස්සේ ඉතින් ඒක ඉන්වෙස්ටර් එක පිට දාලා ඉන්වෙස්ටර් ඊට පස්සේ ඉන්වෙස්ටර් බැන යනවා. අවසාන වශයෙන් අපි ඕගොල්ලන්ට මේකේ Yes please go ahead.
Because you mentioned about the water input, I assume that there are necessary environmental assessment are being done for the output of water. I'm worried about that rather than the input.
So the EIA was completed and all of that has been addressed. We have got the EPL and the Coast Conservation has also given their permit for the wastewater.
No, just a clarification. Yeah, thank you.
Now, BOI, if this is the concept that you're going, why don't you extend this to many? Why only this particular one? There are many other backward integrated processes that the BOI has taken introverted policy. So why don't you open it out, say this is the way forward? Where it'll certainly be quick on inventory.
Yeah, like battery production.
Yes.
So I mean, this will bring the entire rethinking process for BOI.
Yes, well noted. We have, unfortunately, fabric we will not be able to replicate anywhere else due to the water that's generated from the activity, that it can't be treated in any other places close to the drinking water sources. But other industries like the lace and the buttons and the rest of it, we are of course promoting for backward integration.
No, I think the question was other industries,
sectors.
like
Other
for
industries.
example, vehicle assembly.
Right, yes.
Are we
So
giving a
component,
similar
yes.
preference for this particular? Now the concept was very clear. No? So we are saving imports. It's a strategic industry, so it's a strategic investment. It has so many benefits. Now, do the other industries also has such for backward integration? That's the question.
That's right.
Yeah, so we do promote like for component manufacturing,
Right.
etc. But it's a slow process, but we are on that job.
What are the other industries that you all are looking at trying to open up like this?
The pharmaceutical industry is another one that we are actively taking forward because of the import bills and maybe as an import substitution. So that is one area we are focused on at the moment.
So I think BOI should be looking at this value-added process in a much bigger way, because I think the delivery and the principal policies are taking a long time. Now, if you take this as a classic example, then open it out.
Right.
Now, there is an issue here because I'm going to read off the technical assistance report of the IMF Governance Diagnostic Assessment, which some of the conditions have been included in the agreement. Point number 201, the SDP Act should be abolished or suspended until the structures and processes are in place to evaluate the effectiveness of offered incentives. Let me read it. Deciding whether a specific project is viable and whether the potential benefit exceeds its social cost, which includes revenue foregone, increase in administrative costs, market distortions, and potentially perceptions of unfairness, requires a holistic, impartial, and transparent analysis. While the BOI is likely well positioned to understand the investment potential of the specific project or specific projects, it lacks an understanding of the wider fiscal framework and budgetary needs which are necessary to evaluate the net social value of a specific project. Now remember this word, net social value. We discussed it last time. The Department of Fiscal Policy should evaluate and guide the design of all tax incentives, including those based on the SDP Act and the Port City Act. Preparing the necessary structures, including data sharing protocols and legal documents that assign authority to the Department of Fiscal Policy will take time and no further projects should be approved until then. So this is the agreement which says no further projects shall be approved. Now, there is a technical issue because this was approved before 2022 or something like that. Now, park this for a moment, and I'm asking the tax policy advisor of the ministry to give us a quick update on how these two seemingly contradictory positions should be resolved. Or the Director General of Fiscal Policy.
Yes, Chairman. So I think.
So just one moment. Honorable Madam, you had a problem.
Harshan has a response for that.
So,
Sir,
Yes,
can we let him explain technically?
yep.
Can I?
Go ahead.
Yes. So as per the MFP and with the IMF, so the government of Sri Lanka has agreed to not to give any concession after December 2023. So only new projects. And also we have agreed that there should be a rule-based eligibility criteria for the selection of the project. At present, there is no any criteria as such, because the minister has power, and then as per he or he they can give this concession. So at present, now we are preparing the criteria. Actually, sir, based on very few criteria. One of the criteria is investment. The other one is the sector. So now we have prepared the draft and have already submitted that draft to IMF for their comments. So I think in future there would be a very transparent process in selecting and also the giving concession.
එතකොට අපි සමාවෙන කාර ඇමතුමාට විනාඩියක් දෙන්න මේක ඉවරනකම් මොකද අපි ගිය පාර කතා කරේ මෙතන තිබ්බනේ හොලිස්ටික් ඇනාලිසිස් එකක් ඕන කියලා. net social value of specific project. එදා අපි කිව්වනේ environment එක පැත්ත බලන්න අද රාසමානික මන්ත්‍රීතුමා නැහැ අම්පාරේ මං හිතන්නේ ලොකු ප්‍රශ්නයක් නිසා ඔහු අද ඇවිල්ලා නැහැ. නමුත් එතුමාගේ ප්‍රශ්නේ උනේ මේ C fall එක outfall එකක් තියෙනවානේ outfall into the
So there's 500-meter pipeline that takes the treated water through
ඒක තමයි අපි
CO2.
ඔබතුමාන්ලට කිව්වේ BOI එකට කිව්වේ මේ ඇනාලිසිස් එක කරලා අපිට net present value එකක් හදන්න අපිට මේ economic මේ IRR එකකට එහා ගිහිලා economic rate of return එකක් හදන්න social cost එක බලන්න කියලා එක බැලුවද ඔය කට්ටිය?
We have shared the report, Minister.
මේ දැන් මේකද මේක අපේ මේක drive එකේ දැම්මද print out එකක් දීලා තියෙනවා
ඒකේ මේ financial feasibility එකක් විතරනේ තියෙන්නේ නේද
ඕගොල්ලෝනේ මේක වැඩිපුර දන්නේ මට වඩා why don't you all look at it the experts
Chairman, to add on to that one, I think correct observations that has been made earlier, because on a selective basis and a preferential basis, privileges were afforded. However, this is the governance report has identified the issue, and that's why they have come up with this suggestion. And from those lists also, government has accepted in the past to prioritize on certain number of my memory 15 items to be implemented that IMF is monitoring as of now. And as the DG mentioned also, the framework is being developed in the going forward. When we are giving if any preferential benefits are afforded, there should be a transparent mechanism that is in the making as of now. Some work has already been done, and we have shared with, I understand, with IMF. IMF has shared some observations. It's going through the second round of preparatory works also. So our intention is also to have that transparent framework when incentives are provided, but at the same time in a manner that we don't block the opportunity that the country is in dire need of to attract investments also, because there are many other countries in the region that offer far greater benefits. Obviously, in the past, sometimes since it was unfortunately not done in the correct manner, if we close all the gates now, we will not get the required investments that the country is seeking for. So we need to strike a balance between the two, and teams are working. We are quite aware of the circumstances as well.
Anyone else? On the net benefit, can you all, whoever prepared this document, could you explain to this committee the net benefit of giving this tax break for 10 years plus, that's income tax, but there are many others, VAT, what are the concessions that you're asking for? What are all the concessions you're asking for?
CIT,
Huh?
corporate income tax of 10 years. and
Corporate income tax 30% waiver for 10 years.
10 years
And then for the 5 years after that?
50%.
So whatever that rate is, 50% of that rate.
And then PAL, cess and VAT CIT exemption for 10 years.
But normally, don't you ask for during the construction period, PAL, cess and VAT?
Yeah, that's for the PIP construction and project related material will be for the PIP period. And for the raw material imports, it's for 10 years.
You are giving for raw material imports also?
Because it's an import substitution. Actually, Honorable Chair, this is a gazette published already and approved by the Parliament, and we are only giving this to the JJ Textiles to be included in that particular gazette.
No, you are wrong. Just because it is passed, unless it is passed in Parliament, it doesn't become law. You can publish in any gazette you like, but it has to be approved in Parliament. That is why you have brought it here.
It's a yarn, no?
නූල් තියෙනවනේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ පිටරටින් ගේනනේ employment opportunities තියෙනවා create
The raw
කරනවා.
material for the
කරලා
fabric. The raw material for the fabric, like the yarn and thread.
Yarn,
Chair,
dye.
normally export related industries do have these concessions anyway.
Anyway, ඒක තමයි මම
Because
අහන්නේ.
even if it's under TEEP scheme or even you are a direct BOI exporter, you are actually waived off of all
So
these
why are you
taxes.
asking for it separately?
So it's basically the income tax that we have to.
නේද මං අහන්නේ දැන් එතකොට දැන් මේක දෙකක් තියෙනවා. එකක් තමයි මාකට් එක ඩිස්ටෝර්ට් වෙනවද? ඒක ලෝකලි මැනුෆැක්චර් කරන කට්ටිය ඉන්නවද? අපැරල් එකට විකුණන. දැන් ඔබතුමා Mr. Lawrence, you mentioned to us that you buy 50% locally, right? And that included, I guess, some raw material, maybe some yarn, some textiles. I don't know. Perhaps you are doing that. My question is, will those people be unfairly impacted by giving this one particular person duty free for 10 years of import of raw material? Simple question.
I think the answer is that I don't know what those individual companies, what arrangements they already may have had in place. So say, for example, companies like TJ and Ocean Link and so on already in operation have already had the benefit of a tax holiday. I think. I don't know. They would have. So that would be one point. And secondly, the cost of investment in a new facility today is a significant cost compared to what it was.
We are not talking about the investment,
No.
Mr. Lawrence. We are only talking about the import of raw materials for 10 years. That's the only question.
Yeah. So
BOI perhaps can answer, maybe you can't.
So when the imports happen, Honorable Minister, for the textile industry, the imports are anyway duty free if you are an exporter. So it does not distort in that fashion.
Okay. And
All exporters, it's duty free.
Yeah.
All exporters
It's a
can bring
level
in
playing
duty
field
free.
anyway.
so then
And
you are asking
further,
is,
Chairman, this entire output of this factory, of my memory, to be supplied to their own 4 different factories of their own, if I'm not mistaken.
This company provides their production to their parent company for which is manufacturing garments for exports. So the Eravor's main objective is import substitution. So that's why the materials are exempted, because they are providing for a company who exports their values. That's why.
And we have a
JJ Mills Lanka. JJ Textile Lanka is the company established in the Eravur, and the parent company is JJ Mills Lanka.
Only that factory or there are other factories also? Sourcing from?
They have factories
Under
in
that name
4
they have
areas. For all those 4 factories, they are providing factories from Eravur. So,
I think it's like you have to look at like this. So when you have the mill, it doesn't necessarily mean you will supply to your factories. But rest of the exporters also can decide, rather than purchasing from Vietnam, they can start purchasing from this factory. So the entire game plan here is, I think, to have that full capacity utilized by the exporters. Now, do you have that 15% local local market condition for this also?
They can enjoy 20% local markets, but I think their own facilities will take up almost 80% of
So
their
that
production.
is their chair. So they have, any BOI export company has a 20% local market opportunity. So when they put it locally, will it be?
At that point, they pay taxes.
They have to
They
pay
pay
the
taxes.
That's okay.
Right.
DTR, is the PAL and the airport levy refunded at point of export? No?
exports is
No,
exempted.
You're asking for
Here it is
No,
exempted.
it's exempted.
companies in two different platforms.
In this particular, under the STP, there is an exemption. That is something they would get other.
You mentioned previously that the companies that export get exempted.
That is on raw materials, a customs duty exemption.
So this NPV that you have projected for 15 years, very modest. They're all on flat basis, 15 million export of tons of export, and your foreign exchange is flat. Is this a realistic picture or not?
Yeah.
I have one question there. You mentioned that out of the production, 40% released to the local market for the smooth functioning of the garment industry and 60 export.
No,
So
no, sir.
Now what that your final idea is to release all the production to the local market for the garment industry.
No, there has to be clarity. Did the honorable member is saying at one point, did you say that it's 40-60? Sir, why did you think it was 40-60?
Oh, the previous
Discussion.
Yeah. So
Sir,
that was.
sir, shall I add something? Sir, එදා අපි කිව්වේ ගැසට් එකේ ප්‍රොවිෂන්ස් තියෙනවා කම්පැනි එකට වැඩිපුර තියෙනවා නම් ඒක මෙයාට ඉම්පෝර්ට් සබ්ස්ටිටියුෂන් එකක් විදිහට ලෝකල් මාකට් එකට සප්ලයි කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. හැබැයි මේ සිනාරියෝ එකේදී JJ එකේ මැනුෆැක්චරින් ප්ලාන්ට්ස් 8ක් තියෙනවා all over the country. එයාගේ රික්වයර්මන්ට් එක ෆුල්ෆිල් කරන්න තමයි එයා මේක ෆුලි කරන්නේ සර්. එයා ලෝකල් දානවා නම් ඇග්‍රීමන්ට් එකේ තියෙන 20% ඇතුලේ තමයි දාන්න ඕනේ. එහෙම දානවා නම් එයා applicable custom duties ගෙවන්න ඕනේ.
රවි කරුණානායක මන්ත්‍රීතුමාගේ ප්‍රශ්නෙට උත්තරේ ලැබුණේ නැහැ.
මම මේ බොහොම කැමති BOI එක අලුතෙන් මේ වගේ හිතනවා නම් නමුත් මේක එකකට නෙමෙයි ඔක්කොමට ඒ වගේ හිතනවා ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. මොකද දැන් අපරානේ කොහොමද අඩු වීගෙන යනවා. අපට අවශ්‍ය නම් 13 බිලියන් තියෙන්නේ. මේක 2-3 years වලින් 20-22 බිලියන් ගෙනියන්න මේ පැරඩයිම් shift එක කරන්න පුළුවන් අනිත් ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රීස් වලත් සුපර්. හැබැයි ඒක මට පේන්නේ නැහැ. ඒකද මේ NPV එකේ හරි modest value එකක්.
කීයද තියෙන්නේ?
This is NPV at 227 million.
At a 10% discount.
නෑ අපි මේක සමරි එක තියෙනවා මේ item number 5 යටතේ. අපි ඒක කැල්කියුලේට් කළේ ඩිස්කවුන්ට් රේට්ස් තුනකින් සිනාරියෝස් තුනක් ගත්තා 6%, 8% and 10% වලට. ඒක මේකේ මේ ඩීටේල් එක තියෙනවා ඇනලිසිස් රිපෝට් එක. එතකොට
So what are the three variables? Interest
දැන්
rate,
6% අපි එක සිනාරියෝ එකක් ගත්තොත්
exchange
6%
rate.
6% එක ගත්තොත් අපි ඒකේ කන්සිඩර් කළේ FDI ඉන්ෆ්ලෝ එකයි ඊට පස්සේ මේක ඉම්පෝර්ට් සබ්ස්ටිටියුෂන් එකක් කියලා කිව්ව නිසා ඒ assumption එක යටතේ savings of foreign exchange outflow කියලා අපි කන්සිඩර් කළා ඊට පස්සේ අපි එකෙන් deduct කළා whatever import they have to encounter for this production. ඒකෙන් අපි අරගත්ත present value of net foreign exchange savings කියලා ඒක තමයි මේ US dollar 308.547 million කියලා තියෙන්නේ. අපි calculate කළා revenue foregone from the tax and duty exemptions. ඒකේ present value එක තමයි US dollar 39.645ක් කියලා තියෙන්නේ. එතකොට අපි present value of net benefit එක තමයි under 6% scenario එකේ US dollar 300.86 million කියලා අපි calculate කළේ. ඊට අමතරව අපි domestic value addition එක බැලුවා අවස්ථා දෙකකට. එක පළවෙනි අවස්ථාව grade ඉඳන් යන අවස්ථාවේ ඒක තියෙන්නේ 40% කියලා අපි calculation එක අනුව. දෙවෙනි අවස්ථාවේ යාන් ඉඳන් පටන් ගන්න අවස්ථාව වෙනකොට 50% කියලා එනවා. ඊට අමතරව අපි 2.3 යටතේ දැම්මා environment impact එක. එතෙන්දී අපි mention කරලා තියෙන EIA study එක carry out කරලා තියෙනවා. සහ sea outfall එක හදන්න coast conservation and coastal resource management එකෙන් approval එක ලැබිලා තියෙනවා. දැනට මේ අර sea outfall එක 400 meter long sea outfall line එකක් දාන්න කටයුතු කරගෙන යනවා කියන එක.
මේක තමයි බලන්න.
Net profit, net benefit. Basically, that's what you're trying to say. Okay. Yeah, it's a strategic investment for further.
For the industry.
Yeah, for the industry.
Anything else? හරි එහෙමනම් මේ import substitution එක කරනකොට competitive වෙන්න ඕනේ කියන එක කොයි වෙලාවත් හිතේ තියාගන්න. මොකද tax and duty එහෙට මෙහෙට කරලා import substitution එක competitive කරනකොට market distortions එකක් කරනවා ඉදිරියට. I just want to make that note. එහෙමනම් අපි මේක මේ approve කරමු. හැබැයි ඉතින් ඊළඟ ප්‍රශ්නේ එනවා අලුතෙන් පටන් අරගත්තේ නෑනේ JJ Mills ට වඩා අලුත් එව්වා. එමතුමා අලුත් එව්වා එනකොට මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ මේ DG මේ ડોක්ටර් කිව්වා වාගේ මේ හිර වෙනවා. ඊළඟ කට්ටියට මේවා ගන්න පුළුවන් වේද කියලා මම දන්නේ නැහැ. Because then within the zone there is going to be a disparity. JJ Mills will be having all these incentives whereas XX Mills will not.
සර් මේකේ SDP විදිහට මේක අප්‍රූව් උනේ 2021 දී. ඒ කියන්නේ මේකට SDP ස්ටේටස් දුන්නේ particular මේ ඉන්ඩිවිජුවල් කම්පැනි එකට නෙමෙයි එරාවුල් සෝන් එකට. එතකොට මේ ගැසට් එකේ තියෙන්නේ එරාවුල් සෝන් එක SDP විදිහට අයිඩෙන්ටිෆයි වෙනවා. ඒක ඇතුළට එන හැම කම්පැනි එකකටම මේ වගේ ටැක්ස් දෙනවා කියන එක. ඒතර ඒක ක්ලියර්ලි දීලා තියෙනවා මේ ඉන්වෙස්ට්මන්ට් එකට මේ ටැක්ස් එක හම්බ වෙන්නේ ඒ විදිහට ඒක ක්‍රයිටීරියා එක හරියටම ඩිෆයින් වෙලා තියෙනවා. එතකොට සර් දැන් අලුතෙන් කම්පැනි එකක් ආවහම අපි කරන්නේ BOI එකත් එක්ක ඇග්‍රීමන්ට් එකක් සයින් කරලා එයාව අර කියන කලින් 2021 අප්‍රූව් කරපු ගැසට් එකේ ෂෙඩියුල් එකට දාන්න තමයි මේ
ඔහොම කළා තමයි රට
මේ ඉෂුව කරන්නේ.
සමා වෙන්න ඔහොම කළා තමයි අපි මේ ප්‍රශ්නෙට ආවේ. ඒකම අපි දැනගෙන ඒකම ඉස්සරහට කරන්න බෑනේ කරුවා එමතුමා.
Chairman, that's going to be a fact going forward because some of the privileges afforded in the past compared to this new level playing field that we are going to create. So once you benchmark against the new situation compared to some of the previous ones, some would have got higher benefits and some would have got lesser benefits. So it's going to be a fact and a status quo that we have to live with it. But our objective is as the government to make sure at least going forward we have a transparent mechanism and everyone is treated equally and fairly on this basis. But at the same time, it's very important we give whatever that is required to attract the type of benefits and investments into the country without jeopardizing the social factors, environmental factors also. So we are quite rather aware of the circumstances and working with the teams to get it done quickly also.
And Chair, I think the other piece is now we have whatever that has happened, we need the backward integration for the apparel industry. Otherwise, already most of the industrialists are putting the plants in Kenya and other tax benefited areas. So if we can get three facilities, next 15 to 20 years, we are sure of the industry going forward. So I think if that is possible to give even the next investors, it will be ideal, but let's see what the framework looks like.
Yeah, Mr. Lawrence, your presentation was very helpful. Actually, it showed us all. You said this is the only tool in the box. That is unfortunate.
Right now, sir, it is the only tool that we have to attract an investor.
Yeah, just to add to that, I mean, being in the industry for 16 years, now the market is looking for flexibility also. Now even during COVID, Sri Lanka didn't have flexibility because we have to wait 3 months to order fabric because the supply chain is not integrated. So the market is also demanding one from the perspective of tax where you need the traceability of origin of fabric. But the other one is the flexibility that when we want to change colors and yarn, if you have the mills here, it's much easier to do. So those are the two strategic requirements for the industry.
Sorry, one other question. Mr. Lawrence, on your input costs, once you take the fabric off, what about your other input costs like electricity, labor, water, logistics?
Yes, sir. So
How does that compare with the competitiveness for the region?
Electricity was a difficulty until 2 days ago, so with the electricity change, but prior to that, Sri Lanka's electricity was higher than it was in the region. So Sri Lanka is not the most cost competitive, sir, right now. Part of that is also due to scale. Companies in Bangladesh and Vietnam have a scale that we don't, and that automatically drives down cost. But certainly costs of energy, costs of water, Sri Lanka is not the cheapest place to be. We are very appreciative of the change in the electricity tariff, and we hope it can be sustained. Right now Sri Lanka is not the cheapest place to be. So we do need to have something to catch the investors.
Thank you very much. Those who are here for that particular item of business can leave if they so wish.